Hey, everybody. Your backdrop there is pretty intense, Bob.
Yeah, a little too much red.
Really nice. It's just the red sticking out of your head.
All right, I'll go with the bridge then. Bridge too far. Oh, there we go. Even better. Oh yeah, a little winter time.
No, we want to be done with that.
I guess we need a few more of our committee members to.
Ben, we need to remember to bring that shrub in. I'll mute.
I need to what?
Okay.
That's not my ambulance.
It's better if it goes.
Oh, that's
community board ambulance.
Yeah. Supposed to do that either.
for all the people joining us. We're just waiting for a few more board members to join us.
Yeah, I have 13 members now, so quorum purposes. We'll give it a few more minutes.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Susan. Okay, Carter, I think we got a quorum now, and we could probably start.
I think you're ready to go.
Yeah, okay, so I'll introduce myself and Donna Rafferty. This is Community Board 2's SLA meeting. We have a couple this month, but this is our second meeting. If you're an attendee and not on the community board, at least in terms of the Zoom meeting tonight, if you are an applicant and a lawyer or representative of an application, we will call out the applications one at a time, and we'll bring you forward. You can raise your hand, and then we'll bring you forward and make you an attendee so that you can speak and present. If you are from the community and not necessarily an applicant or a representative of an applicant and would like to speak on any of the applications, you can also raise your hand and let us know that you're there by doing so that we can then call on you just like we would if we were in person at a community board meeting in person, at the church. Tom, how are you? Good to see you. We're adding more community board members. Hi, Pat, Katie, nice to see you tonight. And the other thing is that if you're from the public and you want to read about an application, or the questionnaires are posted online at our community board website, so you can see for yourself what the application is about and what's being presented in that regard as well. I'm sure I missed something, but as we go along, we'll try to figure things out. I think it kind of makes the most sense right now to call Spring Cafe New York and make sure if you're here for that application, if you could raise your hand and we'll bring you forward.
Mhm.
There we go. Sabrina and Max. Okay, are you guys signed up? Have you brought them forward, Carter?
No, I will do that. I was working. Katie, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to
Okay,
make-
good. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So we have Sabrina and Max. Is that correct?
That's who I
Yes.
see.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Max.
Okay. And Sabrina, you're here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I gotcha.
We
Okay.
could hear you. We can't see you, but we could hear you.
Oh,
If you want to be seen, you can be. If you stop, it says,
go.
there you go.
sorry, I'm getting used to Zoom.
Okay, we all are, and some of us are better at it than others. So we are all going to be patient with regards to Zoom.
Okay.
All right, so everybody's on board. This is our first application. Max, you want to introduce Sabrina and tell us what the application is about? This is a restaurant wine application.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Donna. Good evening, Carter, and everybody else on the committee. You all know me. I'm Max Bookman. With me is Sabrina Rudin, and she's the applicant for what should be a very straightforward and easy first application on your agenda tonight. It's a restaurant wine application, and the concept is called Spring Cafe. Before I tell you about the concept, I should just say a little bit about Sabrina. Sabrina's a lifelong New Yorker, and she spent a good part of her life in your neighborhood. She was born and raised or at least born at 250 Mercer, and has lived in the neighborhood for many years. She started Spring Cafe a little over 7 years now in Aspen, and Spring Cafe is an organic, healthy, limited service restaurant concept where you go to the counter and you order. We included a copy of the menu in our package, so you can see the type of delicious food that she offers. I'm sorry that it's in black and white, because if you look at their menu online, you see all the beautiful colors that they have in all the different foods, the different grain bowls, the different proteins, offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it's a delicious, healthy concept she has. Out in Aspen, the concept has been successful. She has a beer and wine license out there, and so now she's looking to bring it home and have the concept in New York. So as far as the location, it's 14 West 4th Street. You'll be happy to hear that this is one of the rare cases, at least that I'm aware of, where we're actually going from an existing OP down to beer and wine only. So the previous license there was a place called Dojo West. I'm not sure how many years it was there, but it did have an OP. This is going to be beer and wine only. Really nothing in this application that usually is of concern to this committee. Very early closing hours, 9:30 p.m. So she's open from 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. 7 days a week. No loud music, very small, 52 seats, 23 tables, plus there's 4 seats at a little food counter. Those are the basics. If there are any questions, we're here and we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, so Max, Sabrina understands when you write 9:30 p.m., that means our actual, closing, nobody left, or, I just want to make sure we're correct on the hours.
That's right. This is not a thing where we're asking to close alcohol service or anything like that, or last call or anything. She understands 9:30 means closed at 9:30.
Okay, and there was a question. I don't know if you can have a sidewalk cafe, but I think there was a question with regards to the sidewalk cafe. Is there a plan for sidewalk cafe? What is the story there?
Yeah, so we'd like to apply for a sidewalk cafe. The previous business there, Dojo, did have a sidewalk cafe there by my count. And this is not from DCA, but just from looking on Google Street View, it looks like they had about 12 tables and 24 seats there on their sidewalk cafe. We've not yet applied to the Department of Consumer Affairs for that license, but it's our intention to do so. So we would like to make that part of this application so we don't have to come back to you later on for an alteration.
And how many seats and how many tables at the sidewalk cafe?
So we haven't gotten that far yet, but if we go by what roughly what Dojo had, I think
yeah, approximately.
I think about 12 tables, 24 seats is what we'd shoot for as well.
Okay. And then the sidewalk cafe would be closing at 9:30.
Yes.
And there's no open doors or windows at this location, right?
Nope.
Okay. I just open it up to the rest of the committee members. If you have a question, let me know.
Bob, are you sure you want the 9:30 closing time, or do you want to just make it a little bit later in case you want that, since it is earlier than what was there? Or
you don't have to come back, Max.
Yeah, I mean, Sabrina, they're asking you a rare question here, which
right.
to be open later than what we've already told them, or at least have the
Doesn't
option.
mean you have to be open till that time.
I mean, yeah, but if you would like that flexibility, Sabrina, to be open past 9:30, perhaps 10 or 10:30, I think is what they're saying, then they're offering that to you.
That's very kind. Thank you. I mean, if we think we should put a little room, a shoulder in there, we could say 10 p.m. But in Aspen, we close at 5 p.m. So 9:30 for us is quite late because we want to be able to offer dinner in New York. So I can't imagine that we would be open past 9:30, but thank you for asking.
Well, so
Yeah.
let's take their offer just in case. So let's do 10. Just
Okay.
thank you.
And the reason why we bring it up, Sabrina, is because if you decide later on to have later hours, say you decide that, you know, your business needs an extra hour or two, you would then have to come back to us for an alteration. So in order to save the time and effort, that's why we're bringing up that.
Thank you very much. So I would say 10 p.m.
Okay, all right. Anybody from the committee have a question? I got one. Mar, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, have you spoken to the people that live in the building above?
I have not officially, we sent out community outreach letters before this meeting. I didn't hear back from anyone, but I sent the emails out. But I do know quite a few people who live in the building, and I'm confident that they all feel very excited to have a spring cafe there from what I've heard. So that I know from speaking just to people that I know in the building who would like to have that kind of healthy vegetarian restaurant there.
Okay. Anybody else have?
I just want to, Sabrina, we're in the audience. We also have the executive director of the NoHo Bid, and also Chandler, who works with her, Cordelia, a person. I think that you might want to reach out to them just in general to be in touch with them if you have not already.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Great advice. We'll connect her.
Okay, I think that does it for that application. Max, you were right. That was a pretty easy one to start out with. Sabrina, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Max,
Good luck.
I just want to make sure Max is familiar with our stipulations. I can't like show it to you right now, but it's going to be our typical stipulations, Max. So you can explain that to Sabrina, so we're not mixed up with that later on down the road. Okay.
No problem, Bob.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. So next up is going to be we're going to do Molluska LLC, 1 Little West 12th Street. If you guys on that application would like to raise your hand so we know you're here, and we'll bring you forward.
So that's also me, and I should have 2 people raising their hand.
I see 1 right now. There's 2. Okay. I'm not going to try to pronounce their names though.
Trust me, I had to write it out phonetically.
Hello?
All right. We got Eric and Evgeny on.
Yep.
Okay, guys.
Evgeny, you're on mute. Yep, there you go.
I'm here. I just unmuted
Okay.
it.
Very
All right.
good.
You're ready. Go ahead, Max.
Okay, give me just 1 minute to switch my gears here.
Take
Okay.
your time.
Good. All right. Hello again, CB2. I'm still Max Bookman, but with me I have Molluska, Eric Agababayev.
Mm-hmm.
How'd I do, Eric?
Good.
Good. And Evgeny, why don't you just say hello and let them know your full name.
Hi, it's Evgeny Zhuravlev. I'm here
Okay.
to
Good.
speak on behalf of the owner.
Good. And so Eric is going to be one of 2 owners of Molluska. Evgeny is going to work for them, and he works with the other owner, Anar, who's not with us tonight. So the concept is mussels. That's what Molluska means, and that's what they're going to be serving. Over 100 different mussel bowls. That's their signature meal. So mussels with everything you could imagine. Mussels with cheese, mussels with fruit, mussels with truffles, mussels with, you name it, they're going to put mussels with it. And that's their focus, but it is just mussels, even though that's the main thrust of the business. It's a full service seafood restaurant with a number of entrees, as well as a beautiful raw bar. We included a copy of their menu. That's the menu that they are currently using in Russia, where this concept currently exists. So they have 3 Molluskas already in Russia, and they are looking to come to New York City to add another one. So the location here is 1 Little West 12th, and that's we're doing an OP to an OP restaurant to OP restaurant. And so what I mean by that is the previous licensee there, a place called Coco, I believe their corporate name was the Meat Packers. They were there for a period of time, and we took over their space in part because of the kitchen that was already there. And we're going to be doing a lot similar to them in terms of hours of operation. So we're seeking the same hours that they had. It's the same space that they had. We're not doing anything to the kitchen. As I said, the only 2 differences between this concept and Coco, at least as it relates to stipulations, is number 1, we are asking for a sidewalk cafe. 9 tables, 18 seats, whereas for whatever reason, the previous people didn't have one. And then there's the question of music. So when we initially notified your community board, we had checked off DJ and live music. There had been, prior to coming to this meeting, there had been a request that Donna's aware of because she was involved for us to meet with Zach, and who I believe, on behalf of some other residents nearby who wanted to hear more. Eric met with them on the phone. We were given a bunch of feedback. As a result of that, I spoke with them, we all spoke, and they decided that even though the type of DJ that they have in Russia is what they wanted to have here, which is not for dancing, but for that sort of other type of DJ that everybody tries to define, where someone's picking the music and live or whatever. They decided they're not going to have that here, which brings it in line with what the previous restaurant had. So no DJ, and that's what's reflected on your current packet. They would like to keep the ability to have an acoustic singer. There's no stage or dancing or anything like that, but they do have that in Russia, and they would like to be able to have that as well. The ability for in the corner or something, someone playing acoustic music. I know that's not as objectionable with this board, but we're happy to hear your feedback on that. Other than that, I'm sure there'll be questions, and so we're here and we're ready to answer them.
Okay, so just real quick, could you guys give us what your experience is? I mean, you said it's 3 restaurants in Russia. This would be the first one outside of Russia. Who operates the restaurants in Russia? And did the 2 gentlemen here tonight, did they operate any of those restaurants?
Yeah, I thank you for clarifying that, Bob. I knew I missed something. So in terms of experience, Anar, he is the creator of the concept. He is the one who owns and operates those restaurants in Russia. Anar is one of the 2 owners. He's not here tonight. Eugene, who works with Anar, he works with Anar and assists him with the operations in Russia. So he is here tonight. Eric, who is Anar's brother-in-law, he has food and beverage experience, not in Russia, but here in the United States, specifically Philadelphia. So and we put that in our materials. So for a number of years, he operated a Bear Burger on Walnut Street in Philadelphia that had a liquor license. And so that's his stateside experience.
Okay, and so who's going to be actually operating this particular restaurant out of the group?
So I'm going to answer that, but then if Eric wants to jump in and leave out and add anything I've left out, then please do so. So Eric is going to be operating this restaurant along with Evgeny, who's here tonight. Evgeny, he's just going to be a manager, so he's here, but he's just a manager. He actually has his own experience as well. We didn't put it on the form because he's not on the license. He's just a manager, but the 2 of them will be operating it. Is there anything else you wanted to add, guys, in terms of operations? Who's going to be operating?
Sure, Evgeny.
I'm operating the restaurants. I have a restaurant in Midtown right now that is mine, and I'm actually opening another restaurant in Nomad. and I'll be doing responsible for the operations of this restaurant in meatpacking from Maluska. So I'll be responsible for staffing, for putting the concept together, the menu building, and so on and so forth.
And that's why we wanted to bring him here tonight, even though he's not an owner.
Okay. All right. And he will, Eric, that's Eric, right? Eric?
Yes.
Okay. But Eric is not going to be on the license itself.
No, I am on the license.
All right. So Yevgeny, who just spoke, he's the one who's not going to be on the license. He's a manager, and he's going to be the one running this business as well. Eric is going to be on the license. He's the owner who has experience in Philadelphia. And Eric, you want to just mention any, what your role in the restaurant is going to be here?
So just a little about myself. I'm a CPA, and I also provide help for a lot of restaurants from a financial and operational standpoint. And so I have a lot of experience with working with a lot of restaurants in New York City, coming in, finding any holes they have in the financial and also in operational, helping out with the supply chain and everything along those sides. So I have a lot of experience in that area. And I also have experience when I, like Max mentioned, when I ran the operational side of the Bear Burger in Philadelphia, which is a full liquor bar with an active bar and everything.
Thank you.
Okay. And so what is this Instagram room?
Okay, I yelled at them for putting the Instagram room thing on. There's not going to be any Instagram room. The architect who drew up these plans put it on. We missed it. There was never going to be an Instagram room. They thought it was going to be cute. Basically, there's this little extra space there that nobody knows what to do with, and so the architect thought it would be cute if they'd have what they thought of an Instagram room. It's not something we came up with. What they're going to do with that room now is they're going to put a sculpture of a mussel in there, and so you could see it from the street. That's one idea, and the other idea is just make it more coat room, make it part of more of the coat room, but no Instagram room.
Okay. And Max, what are the proposed sidewalk cafe hours and about the closing time for doors, because you have open doors?
Whatever your normal recommendation is on that, we'll go with. I think what is that, 11 you guys usually ask for?
Yeah, usually 10 and 11 10 during the week and 11 on the weekends. And then door closing, we've been asking for 9 p.m. On the door closing. But I'm throwing that out there at you, but why don't we keep talking and let everybody ask questions before we get to that.
Definitely on the closing hours for the sidewalk cafe, if it's 10 and 11, we'll go with that. On the door, let's keep talking.
Okay. All right. And what makes you say, and then this is my last question, and then because there's a number of people that have questions, what makes you say that the hours were 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. for the prior restaurant? I never remember any restaurant at that location with those hours.
Well, it was not easy finding a resolution on the internet for this place, but we believe we found it, although it wasn't on your website. It was through some third-party website. Plus, we checked Coco's website, which is still up, and those were the hours that they were advertising. So I know neither of those are perfect, but that's what is for saying that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure in terms of your statement as to what the last place had, because I don't have that in my notes. But anyway.
Yeah, normally I'm able to pull a copy of your resolution, and normally I go off of that, but it was a little more difficult. We had to use some circumstantial evidence.
All right, so there are a number of questions, and there's a bunch of people that would like to speak on this too. So Susan, go ahead, Susan Wittenberg.
Hi.
Oh, you're muted, Susan. You're muted.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. Hi, Max.
Hi.
Hi. One community member wrote in what was, to me, an interesting point. And they mentioned that in this now COVID era, that their concern was that outdoor space and the use of outdoor space is going to become even more important. And that was a concern that they felt. And so I thought it was something legitimate to bring up to you, because I think maybe that is right. And it is something that we're going to have to look at more carefully. So what is your feeling about that?
Well,
for this restaurant.
Sure. I mean, there was the desire to have a sidewalk cafe here long before COVID, but my sort of response to your comment and to your question is that the need for a sidewalk cafe is ever heightened because of COVID. I don't necessarily think that COVID should be the end all be all in this committee's decision making and guide every single thing that you do. But I do think there are a few realities that we should expect to be here for quite some time. One of them is that there's going to be an increased preference for dining outside. We know all of if anyone's reading the news, which I know you all are, we know there's a number of thoughts going around right now about closing certain streets to allow outdoor eating. That's happening in other parts of the country and perhaps in New York. But even when that sort of immediate piece is over and we're trying to get back to normal, I think it's fair to assume, nobody has a crystal ball, but fair to assume that there's going to be a preference amongst the dining public to want to eat outside. And so, I think that's just yet another reason why having a sidewalk cafe is important, whereas maybe in the past you may not have wanted one at a particular location.
I mean, that is exactly the point, and it's been coming up, obviously, over the past month. And I guess what it does, I mean, I don't mean to single out this restaurant, and we'll move on from this, but the community is just beginning to feel concern about balancing their needs for all our shared desire for all these businesses to succeed. But suddenly the importance of the sidewalk cafe element becomes even bigger. And then we're starting to get more comments about noise concerns. So I'm just bringing this up because I know it's something we'll be discussing going forward.
That's fair. And I think, I agree, let's not put it all on this particular applicant, but I do think, just at least in the conversations that I'm having with people who are, maybe on your agenda 2, 3, 4 months from now, just initial conversations that I'm having in my law firm, you're going to see more applications with sidewalk cafes on them, I think, than in the past.
Okay, we got a question from Mar. You had a question, Mar?
I did. I was just concerned with that particular corner. I mean, we've got so many patios and so much seating right there, from Greenwich around to Little West 12th. Bagatelle has their huge patio, and then now the entire block is going to be patio, and then there's that huge seating area in the open streets on the cobblestone right in front. Nobody's really going to be able to walk. So, I don't really see, I just feel like it's too much density for one street. I don't know if that's really a question, but certainly a concern.
Well, if I could have the opportunity just to briefly respond to your concern. I would just reiterate what I just said to Susan, but I think just beyond that, and I must confess, it's been my days of going down to the meatpacking at night are sort of been over for a few years now. But as far as I'm aware, that is a pretty large open space that's that cobblestone street area. So God, who knows how many feet that is? So that's basically, you have a 50-foot sidewalk there, and so I think that there's more room to walk, I suppose. I see Donna shaking her head, so maybe I got that wrong, but I think the only other thing I would say to that, Mar, is since there already are other sidewalk cafes on that street, that already affects the walking patterns. So there's already sort of a bottleneck, and so I don't think it reduces the capacity any further by putting another sidewalk cafe out there, because there's people already walking past the sidewalk cafe for, I think you said, Bagatelle.
How many tables was it?
We are asking for, let me pull that up.
Just outside?
Yeah. 9 tables, 18 seats. So 9 tables. It's not even that much.
That's not really social distance compliant. Would they be willing to do fewer tables outside?
Hopefully we're here for the long run, and hopefully the virus won't be around forever. So I wouldn't want to, this goes back to a remark I made earlier, I think, in response to Susan. I don't think COVID should be the end all be all of every decision that we make here. But, I do think for a long time into the future, long after this is over, there will be a preference for eating outside. And so, whatever you give us, let's say you give us what we're asking for and it's 9 tables, if we are able to open up tomorrow, which we're not going to be able to, then whatever, restrictions that are in place by the governor we're going to have to adhere to. So if that means that people have to sit 6 feet apart, then, you know, and that won't work with 9 tables, then we'll obviously have to do less. But there will come a point in time, God willing, where that restriction will end, but there will still be the preference for sitting outside. And that's what we're looking towards with the 9 tables.
Okay, Donna, is just if there's anybody from the public that would like to step up and speak on this item, you should raise their hand so that we know you're here. Go ahead, Donna.
So,
Do you hear me? I have my hand raised.
Oh, I didn't see you. No, I did not see that. So
I guess not. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I still don't see it. Wait a second here.
it was up. She was up before.
Of course it was up.
Let's back down though now.
Okay.
Let Dr. Smith go first.
Go ahead, Dr. Smith. I didn't see your hand raised, but go right ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I want to ask, hi, Max. How are you?
Good. How are you, Dr. Smith?
I'm good, thanks. Let's go back to the principals. How many principals are there, and what is the percentage of their ownership?
There's 2 principals. We've not gotten to the point in the application process where we've talked about ownership percentages, but there are 2 principals. It'll be, I mean, around 50-50. I'm not sure yet. And as I said, one of them's here tonight. That's Eric. He's going to be more on the finance side, on more of it, and the other principal is Anar. He's the one who came up with the concept. He's the one with the restaurants in Russia. And Eugene, who is going to be the manager and who works with Anar in Russia, is here tonight.
And another question, please. The restaurants in Russia, do they have OP licenses?
I don't know if that's what they call them, but they have. They probably do.
Do they have liquor?
Yes, they have liquor licenses.
Yes, they sell. They most certainly sell liquor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Donna, do you want to go or do you want Zach?
I just wanted to get clarification on a few things. So for Anar, will he be here or will he be in Russia?
He will be in Russia.
He will be in Russia. So, and then how do you say, Evgeny?
You can call him Eugene.
Eugene, okay. So will he be at this location operating the restaurant, or will somebody else there be managing and he will be overseeing that management? In other words, who of this team that we're talking about is actually physically going to be at the restaurant, if any?
That's going to be Eugene.
And I will also be there a couple days a week as well.
That was just Eric who just said that.
Right. So, okay. So Eugene will be there as well as his other 2 or 3 restaurants.
And Eric will be there as well. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other restaurants that are in Russia, the 3 other ones, are they all open?
They're only doing takeout at the moment because of COVID.
Well, were they open before COVID?
Yes, they're operating. There's 2 actually on pause to be open because of restrictions because of COVID. They're fully constructed, ready to go, but
so they hadn't been operating though. So only 1 had been operating.
No. 2 more on top of that. 2 more.
So 3 have been operating, and then there were 2 more new ones that were about to operate.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Max, just so that you know, the previous applicant had hours of 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday. They were given, those hours were an hour later than the person before them, and they were given those hours because they did not have a sidewalk cafe. So I think that's something, you know, given the time we're in, not that COVID should be driving everything, but I think, you know, sidewalk cafes are certainly a reasonable request now, more so than, but you might want to think about the hours because that's why they had those hours. And I wouldn't, go ahead.
Sorry. All right, well, I was just to react. So it sounds like I heard 2 things there. One of them, it sounds like the hours that we applied for are the same as what you just said, with the exception of, it sounds like that Thursday, which is interesting. Again, this is not definitive, and we couldn't find I think maybe the best copy of your resolution, but at least what Coco was advertising was 2 a.m. Thursday.
So just to be clear with you, before Coco, the meat packers, when they originally opened, it was a different restaurant with a different chef. I don't even know if they ever opened with the chef they originally applied with, but it was
Mhm.
definitely a different restaurant. And that at some point in the past year, year and a half, Coco came in, and
Mhm.
Coco was doing a few things that they weren't supposed to be doing. The hours, the DJs, there were a number, the whole gold paint, I don't know if that was legal on the building, the flowers. So there were a lot of issues with that. They weren't open that often, and then COVID came in. So I wouldn't just go by what you see as them being advertised, because that wasn't in the stipulations.
Fair enough, and I generally don't. But for whatever reason, we just had a harder
Yeah,
time
you couldn't
finding
find it.
on that.
There was
But,
also a long history here on this, because prior to that, it was Macellaria, who were the first folks that came along, and it was like 3 years it took them to build out. And they kind of hit some snags in the beginning. And that's why the community understood that scenario. And that's where some of the later hours began to evolve into this space without having a sidewalk cafe. That was where some of those conversations had taken place. Elaine was very involved with those, but I think that the layout in the place flipped at some point, and they moved the kitchen to the basement. But I think
well,
there was some stuff that was moved around. But that's where this history came from, of some confusion, and then somebody clearly changed the whole concept, the last operator, while it was licensed, and so that's where there's confusion here.
Thank you for that, Carter. I think just, Carter and Donna, I think just the only other thing I would say is about the hours and as it relates to the sidewalk cafe is, look, obviously that wasn't a deal that we, that trade-off was obviously not a deal that we had ever proposed. We heard it from I think when you first, Donna, when you had the phone call, and that was relayed to me that was that trade-off. I'm not sure if I would push back a little bit on the logic of that. I think on the one hand, I see the thought of, okay, no sidewalk cafe in return for later hours. But on the other hand, I would just offer to you the thought that if we're closing the sidewalk cafe at the times that this board typically recommends that we close the sidewalk cafe, which is much earlier, 10 and 11, then I'm not so sure why the addition of that sidewalk cafe would mean that we should close inside earlier. To me, those seem like apples and oranges. There's the inside closing hours. And if you want to, have a debate about those inside closing hours, I think that's fair. And the point's well taken about Thursday. But I think that ought to be, in my view, separate from whether or not we ought to have a sidewalk cafe and what the hours of the sidewalk cafe should be.
All right, guys. So I think we're going to revisit that issue, but there are a few people that would like to speak, and I want to get to them. I see that your hand is up, Katie. Can you hold off and let's hear from Zach and Anita?
Sure, sure.
Carter, if you can move them forward so they can speak.
Yep, give me a second here.
I'm sorry, Amita, not Anita. Amita, excuse me, Amita.
Hey, Zach, can you?
Hi.
Hey, Zach.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hi.
This is a really strange experience. Okay.
Hold on, Zach. Do we have Amita?
Should be.
She's muted right now.
Yeah, you're muted, Amita. So what you can do is unmute yourself. Just to tell you. Oh, there you go. Tell us you're here. Good. Okay, now you can put yourself back, and I'll let Zach go. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay. Again, thanks for an opportunity to speak. My name is Zach Weinstein. I live at 92 Horatio Street. I had one question and then a couple of comments. The question is this: when we had the conference call with Eric back on May 8th about how this place was going to be operating, he mentioned that he was bringing in a consultant to help set up the front office operations, and that person would be Evgeny, but that Evgeny would not be involved in actually managing or involved in the operation once it opened. So I just wanted to check, has that changed? Will Evgeny in fact now be the manager going forward after the place opens, or will somebody else be brought in once the opening occurs?
Okay, and I'll let you finish up though, and then we'll.
Okay, then the comment, sure. Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, Just backing up what Donna said, yeah, I would ask that the hours be reduced to the hours that were given originally at this location. The closing at midnight Sunday to Thursday and 1 a.m. Friday to Saturday seems, pretty reasonable for a seafood restaurant. The other major concern that I've got about this involves the live music. There's never been live music at this location before. Live music is something that we've traditionally opposed very strongly at any new licensed location in this area. And it really gets back to also in part to the fact that the operators have very limited experience here in New York City and no track record whatsoever. Live music, music of any, music of this sort, it becomes something that's potentially ripe for abuse. And it starts, once you got live music with an amplified singer, all of a sudden microphones can start sneaking in for other instruments. It's a slippery slope, which we've avoided going down with literally almost every other application we faced here. And I don't really see any reason to change that precedent for this particular location or for this operation. Lastly, there's another point that we discussed during our conference call with Eric, which I have not heard brought up here. We had asked that there be no music of any kind inside the establishment when the French doors are open. They're putting in new French doors. They're going to be very large. We also understand that given COVID, there's an incentive, a good incentive for people to open up those doors, keep them open, have as much ventilation as possible, have the interior space as open as possible to the outside. That does, of course, invite potential noise problems. And we'd really like to try and avoid those right from the beginning so that, yeah, we understand the doors are there. They're going to be open. That's probably a good thing. But when they're open, we'd be asked that there be no music of any sort, including background music. And I think that covers what I have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Zach. We're going to go to Amita first, and then we're going to get some answers to the questions, okay? So go ahead, Amita. What would you say?
Just one question. And I want to endorse all the comments that the committee members have made. And you have my comments in writing from earlier today. Any private events, any sellouts for private events, the interior capacity being 100 plus, this would be a concern.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Katie, if you could just hold off for 1 second. We're going to go back to Max and the applicants on just the questions. And,
okay, no problem.
So go ahead and answer the questions if you can, Max. I'll help you if you need a little help.
Sure. Thank you, Bob. I wasn't on the call with Zach. I know Eric was, and I'll let him chime in if I've said anything wrong. But regardless of what was said on the call, maybe there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding. But Eugene, Evgeny, he will be managing this location. He will be the manager there. So that answers that question. In terms of events per year, we put on our proposed method of operation that we've submitted to you that we can close at a maximum of 4 times a year, which is, I'd say actually probably a little bit lower than you typically see. And so that's on that.
Max, say that again, because you kind of broke in and out. You said you talking about private events.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
It's kind of.
Okay, I'm sorry. I must have a poor connection here. I tried it beforehand. So in terms of the number of private events a year, we have our proposed method of operation, and I actually misspoke. I said 4 times a year. It's actually 4 to 6 times a year, 4 to 6 times a year that we are proposing to periodically close for private events, which is still, I think, a fairly low number. Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, and when you say close for private events, are you going to have outside promoters for those private events, or is it going to be the folks that operate the restaurant?
No promoters, no promoted events.
Okay.
Wedding, business, yeah, things like that.
Okay, and there was about the live music. Is there an agreement that you won't have your French doors open anytime there's any sort of live music that's playing, whether it's acoustical or otherwise?
If the request is during live music, and again, the only live music here is acoustic, a person walking around, singing, that which would only happen on occasion. But if the request is that the French doors be closed for that, then we're willing to stipulate to that.
That's not correct. That's not what we were asking. What we were asking was for the French doors to be closed anytime there was any music playing and not to have any live music. That was the request.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Donna, I changed it a little bit with my question, and I appreciate you bringing that up. You're absolutely correct. But what my question is, at least in terms of the discussion, is if there's live music and we're being told it's acoustical only, would the doors and windows be closed at any time there would be live music? And so when I say live music, it's acoustical only, okay?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. And so in terms of the acoustical music, when would be the times when you would have live music?
We've suggested is on occasion. I don't think we've specified it further than that. Guys, you want to add any color to that?
It could be, on a Friday night, let's say 9 p.m., 8 p.m., 7 p.m. It all depends. We really, we're not 100%. We don't want to bother the neighborhood, and we're willing to work with you guys and making sure that our doors will be closed when we're playing the live and acoustical music during that time. And we don't plan to have the music at a loud volume because at the end of the day, no one wants to hear, loud music in their ear while they're enjoying, a plate of mussels. And especially mussels is not like, it's a little dirtier dish. So, sometimes it gets a little sloppy. So no one really wants to enjoy loud music. We just plan to have, a singer in the background singing, Whitney Houston or something along those lines.
But my question is when? Like usually it's, if it's something that is being proposed, it's usually an indication, well, we're going to do, as you said, Friday between 5 and 9, Saturday between, give us an idea of when it's going to take place. And then
it would probably be a weekend item only.
Is there, guys, let me, Bob, let me ask, is there sort of a later time, like a time where you would be willing to cut that off at? I think that's really a lot of the thrust of the question, where, if we're going to have it at a certain time, could we say that we won't have it after a certain time? That was to Eric.
Yeah.
I mean, we could work with the community board and close it off at the time that we decide on closing the French doors.
Okay, and so, you would close the French doors at 9 o'clock at night. That would be different. You would also be closing the doors anytime you have music. So if you have music on the inside, which is acoustical, as you say, live acoustical music with maybe a singer, but no horns, so it'd be like a guitar or a piano and a vocal, and that would be it. That's what we're talking about when we say acoustical. Okay.
And Bob, when you're saying that, are you saying microphoned singer or unmicrophoned singer? Just so we're clear that we're talking about the same thing.
Right, amplification.
Generally, the amplification would be for singing only. A guitar would be something different. It wouldn't be any electric guitars and no drums and no horns and things of that sort. It would be either piano or a guitar and maybe a vocal. Okay.
Yes.
That's all.
That's correct.
So the doors would be closed because you would be having this going on in your restaurant on a Friday or Saturday night. I'm asking you, what time would you stop the live music? That's what I'm trying to find out.
The time, but I'm saying the time that we would discuss to close the doors. If it would be 9 p.m., then it would be 9 p.m.
Okay. All right. So somewhere between 5 and 9 p.m. on Friday and Saturday nights. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was the closing for private events. That's 4 to 6 times per year.
That's right.
Okay. And then there was another question that Zach had, and I've kind of lost it. Zach, did I get all your questions out, or did they answer them all?
Yeah, no, the only question I had was about Evgeny's being manager, and that was answered. And then the comments involved a request for no live music of any kind, the doors being closed in the earlier hours.
Okay.
There were incidentally a couple of other stipulations which I think were non-controversial. Do you want me to mention those as well?
Yeah, please do.
Sure. So we were asking also that there be no TV or video monitors, that the restaurant's full menu be served until closing, that there not be a separate late night menu, that there be no bottle service with the exception of wine, there be no promoters, and there be no velvet ropes, and there be some remote system for alerting people waiting that their table was ready.
So the answer was yes to all of those. None of those are an issue.
Okay. So, Katie, you have your hand up. I'm going to get to you now. Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. So, first of all, is it clear that the doors have to be closed if there is live music? Are the applicant, that's what I'm hearing. I'm not sure, that's what I hear what the community is asking for, if there's music. But the doors cannot be open if there's music. Am I understanding that, Bob, correctly? That's our position?
Yes.
And is that clear to the applicant, Max?
Yes, and so what I've heard from Bob is that the request is that if there's live music, restricted as it will be, playing, then the doors will be closed, and we are agreeable to that.
Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure that we're all on the same page. And the other question is, I want to review who's involved in the two restaurants in New York now, the one in Nomad, I think it was, and which of the gentlemen, and what is their exact position in those restaurants?
Sure. So if Genny, we could also call Eugene, he is the manager. He's not on a license, but because he's just an employee manager. He's the one who said he has a restaurant in Nomad. And Genny, if you want to elaborate a little more on that experience, I think that would be helpful.
Sure, yes, I have the restaurant, it's called La Dress on the 40th and 6th across from Bryant Park. And I'm actually right now under construction at the Nomad location for the second restaurant. I was supposed to be open right now, but unfortunately we had to stop the construction due to the pandemic.
So are you owner, manager? What's your...
I'm the
you're
owner.
the owner
Yes.
of both restaurants?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to be clear about that. Thank you.
That's not what, can we get that clarified, Max? Is he manager or owner?
This is Evgeny who just spoke, the one who's going to be the manager here. What I just heard him say is that he's the owner of those other two restaurants in New York. Did I have that right, Evgeny?
Yes.
Let them answer, Zach. Go ahead.
No, excuse me. Again, you just said that he is not on the, or Max just said he's not on the license for La Dress. That he's the manager, but he's not the owner.
So
Go ahead.
There's two people on the phone call. Eugene, who's going to be on this license because he's an owner. Eugene has experience.
No.
Oh, sorry, no, I screwed it up. I'm sorry.
Eric and Eugene are very similar.
I'm sorry. I screwed it up. All right, let me try again. There are two people on this phone call, Eric and Eugene. Eric is going to be on this license. Eric has the experience in Philadelphia. Eric is going to be an owner on this license. The other gentleman on the phone call is Evgeny, who I've been calling Eugene. He's not going to be on this license because he's just going to be a manager here. However, he has experience elsewhere in New York City as an owner of other businesses. Did I have that right now, guys?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I got a question from Dr. Shirley Smith. Go ahead, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith, there you go. You got to unmute yourself, Dr. Smith, if you want to ask a question.
I thought I had. Can you hear me now?
I gotcha.
Okay, that room that you all had designated as an Instagram room, I don't have any plans up in front of me. How large is that room?
Very small. I think, Eric, could you give the dimensions, please?
I don't, I think
You know
it would be maybe 3 by 3, but we're not going to make it into a room anymore.
And you'll stipulate that?
Yes.
We get no Instagram room. We could say that room is not an Instagram room. It's going to be either more of the coat closet, or it's going to be not used for anything. We're going to put
Okay.
in a sculpture.
Thank you.
I would have fired the architect who submitted that if I was in charge, but you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think ultimately the hours are very important, Max. I would say this is that, you know, what Zach was articulating pretty well is that if I think the concern is if the business doesn't turn out to be exactly what is, you know, is not exactly the way it's working out, it's planned to be. It tends to change, and the hours tend to make sure that it stays as a restaurant. And that was the problem at the location before this. And so, you know, I think the hours are very important, at least in terms of a restaurant. The restaurant hours are generally 12 and 1, not 1 and 2. And, you know, it's going to have the sidewalk cafe. I think the acoustical music can work as long as the doors are closed. And all I'm saying is I think the hours are really important here because the concern being that, you know, we don't want this location to turn out like it did before, which turned into DJs and later advertised hours, you know, after there's all sorts of agreements that were made.
Bob, I just got to say one thing here, because I live right there and I saw what happened with the other place without the DJs and the music inside and a wall of French doors open all the time. There is a problem where music is playing, forget it just being live music, when those French doors, a wall of French doors, making it be a completely open restaurant with music playing in it. This is directly across the street from residences on Gansevoort and Hudson, not to mention everybody on the north side of Horatio and 61 Jane. The sound from there travels up. This is a serious problem when you have a wall of French doors and quote unquote background music playing. You know, it was a problem from the other place. And then they installed black curtains so nobody could see what was going on inside. I'm putting that out there because that's also what the community said, and Zach said the issue was not just the live music and the doors being open.
Yeah, I think you're saying somewhat of what I'm saying. And so
No, I'm saying the background music with doors open is a problem. It's a wall of French doors. It's not a door. It's completely open space. The only place that isn't open on there is the entry doorway. Otherwise, all those doors open. It's a wall of open doors.
Could I say something?
I want to put that out there.
If I may.
Yeah.
Donna, would it, here's my reaction. I don't think, and we may just disagree on this point, I don't think it's fair to tell a restaurant that they can't have any music whatsoever whenever their French windows are open, and we may disagree on that. Is there a certain hour of the day that we could agree to close the French doors at, essentially? So, I mean, if the concern is we're blasting loud, you know, even though we're saying it's background music, we're blasting loud music till 2 in the morning, I get that. But you know, could there be a time where we close the windows at?
Well, the first thing I would say is I would eliminate the word blasting, because you know, Max, as well as I know, that background music in a filled restaurant with people opening mussels and drinking drinks and everything, as soon as the volume of the people goes up, the music goes up to remain being background to the volume of the people that are there. And this is, let me just finish. But this is one of the few places that actually has, number one, faces residents in meatpacking, because there's not many places that face residents in meatpacking. And number two, has a wall of windows. So it's not just like a nice little window being open. It's basically the whole restaurant becomes an indoor-outdoor space, which is wonderful. And in this, especially now, and it has a nice angle to it and everything like that. So I think there's an issue with it, but 8 o'clock at night, I don't know. I'd have to hear from what some other people say.
Right, but they've already agreed to close it at 9 p.m., which is generally our stipulations. I understand there are a wall of windows. I get that part. Max, you know, did you not agree to 9 p.m. to close the doors?
Close the doors, and you know, maybe there's miscommunication, but I mean, that includes, as far as I see it, that includes the windows too. You know,
There are
doors
no
on windows
windows, it's all
would be closed.
doors.
It would be
Those
the door-
that wall that you're concerned about would be closed at 9, 7 days a week.
And
So,
anytime,
yeah, I mean-
so if there's acoustical music going on the inside between 5 and 9, the doors would all be closed at that time.
That's right. So I guess there's two triggers to when the doors, that whole wall of doors, you know, would be closed. One is if there's acoustical music live music playing, and the other would be it's 9 p.m.
Okay.
If either one of those things happen, then the doors are closed.
And the Sidewalk Cafe is going to close at 10 and 11. 10 during the week, 11 on the weekends. And the real question comes down to the closing hours of the restaurant and whether or not you're going to be agreeable to 12 and 1.
12, you know, I'd have to speak with them quickly. I mean, I think 12 is on weeknights, you know, they probably something they could do, but you know, we really want to keep the 2 a.m. for the nights that we've asked for it.
Yeah, the
But
problem.
I think we could definitely do 12, you know, 12 on, you know, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if that helps us get a deal.
Yeah, I think the problem at that location is that things convert into something other than a restaurant. And with right next door being a location that has closed curtains and blasts music and everybody can hear them even though everything's closed. I mean, that's why there's so much concern at this location, because the prior actor didn't follow the rules or the stipulations, and Bagatelle is right next door. And so it's just one will feed off the next, and that's why I think that is the concern with 2 a.m. That's my concern. And I know Donna probably, you know, feels a little stronger than I do, and I know Zach does, and other people perhaps do as well.
I think it would be. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bob. I was going to say I think it would benefit us. I think I know where you stand, Bob, and I think I know where you stand, Donna. But it would benefit us to know where other people on the committee stand on this, because we really, you know, we want to take all the concerns into account. But you know, 2 a.m. was something that was a pretty hard line for us on those days. You know, I think there's room for 12 on weeknights, but you know, we'd like to hear if anyone's interested in taking me up on that offer of hearing where other people stand on that issue.
Yeah, the only problem with that, Max, is that we probably will discuss that at the end of the meeting. If you're willing to take our recommendation as the committee, then that's something that we can do. But you know, I suspect that 12-1 is probably going to be the hours. That's what I'm. You know,
well, let me just close with this point then, if that's where we're heading. You know, you know, we'd be willing. I think, you know, you've heard a number of stipulations negotiated tonight, everybody. You know, to add one more, we would be willing to go down to midnight, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We would like to keep the 2 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Obviously, this committee could issue whatever resolution it wants, and you know, we'll hear from you in the morning about what you vote for. But I mean, that is what we're asking for.
Okay. Now, just making sure, Katie, your hand is not so raised. You don't want to say anything else? Okay. Anybody else have anything that they would like to say on this application before I move on to the next one?
I'm fine. I'm fine, Bob. I'm fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to, do you guys have a C of O for the space?
Eric could speak to that. There's been some COO drama.
So the owner before did not pay the architect, and the architect withdrew his application, his name from the DOB, and that caused a stop work order, which caused the CFO to go in lapse. And I'm a controller at an expediting and construction firm at my full-time job, my part-time job, and basically we are working with the Department of Buildings. Is that things got slowed down because they're not issuing any permits. The commissioner is not, the Department of Building commissioner is not issuing any appointments with him that or her that would expedite us getting the CFO corrected because of the previous owner's mistakes. And we are working with the Department of Building and getting that, and we will have an active TCO before we open, and we will work on getting the CFO.
Well, there is no TCO right now. I'm not even sure how this license was even issued for the last operator.
Well, this happened after the fact.
Muted, Max, but yeah, but you're muted, Max, just so you know.
Thank you. I was gonna say, I don't know how the previous license was issued, but you know.
No, but I mean, because there's no TCO. There's nothing.
There was an active CFO prior.
No.
No, there was not that was active for this use. This was the whole issue with the space going back to day one. Was exactly this. This is why every single previous stipulation says that a TCO needs to be issued before a license can be issued. That was all permits need to be in place.
We will have a TCO before a license is issued.
Well, that's what they said to us before, and it didn't
No,
happen.
but we can't open legally. There's a stop work order.
Later, just opened.
Well, there's a stop work. There was not a stop work order before, so we can't even do construction as is. So we can't even open without the TCO. In order for us to get the permits for the plumbing, the electrical, and all that, we will need to get a TCO in order to get those permits in place. Prior to that, they did not have a stop work order.
I understand, but there is no TCO in place that shows an allowable use for this at that location.
I think this goes back to our standard disagreement, which is there will have to be one before the license is issued. I can't.
I'm asking you about right now, there is not one in place, and how is that license issued? Because you're basing everything here on the premise that there's a properly licensed restaurant at the location.
Well, there was. They're not operating. They've closed. So I don't know how. I don't know what when
you guys,
or what this.
This is the same issue that everybody was confident they could resolve in a month.
I'm 100% confident we could resolve this before we are issued the license.
So all the objections on the license to get a TCO since
yes, we already got the retainers for the architect, the engineers, and for the expediting firm. We cannot do any construction whatsoever to improve the space at all without the TCO, and and then we're just going to be sitting ducks if we're not going to have a TCO.
Okay. I think we got it. I'm going to end the conversation now, if that's okay, and move on to the next application. I need to take a little bit of a break here to go to the facilities.
I have my
Amita
hand.
still has her hand up.
Who does?
Amita.
Oh, well, okay. Amita, you have something else you want to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, 2 a.m., all 2 a.m.s are not equal. And a lot of it has to do when it's last call for drinks and food and the hard close. And frankly, 2 a.m. Thursday is tough. There's a lot of places in the hood that close around the same time. So you can well imagine that those of us very close to this location, it's greatly amplified when there's multiple venues. I understand what the applicant is saying and their sense of 2 a.m. being important to them, but I think there has to be some language that really controls what 2 a.m. means in this case. And I do want to point out that, Donna, you'll correct me, was it Serafina that used to be on the plaza much west of this? When their windows were just slightly open.
Yeah, well, and 5
yeah, we would hear it.
And 5 9th, both of them.
So I do appreciate what is being stipulated for the French doors being closed, whether it be any acoustical, they'll be closed, and that 9 p.m. regardless. That's fabulous. But the 2 a.m. is not an easy thing to digest. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Amita. And Max, and I got to give you an opportunity. If you'd like to respond, you can.
Just very, very briefly, I want to thank everybody who devoted a lot of time to this. Obviously, I think a lot of this boils down to this particular issue. I've explained to my clients, and they understand that in this community board, to whatever closing time we stipulate to, that means everybody's out the door. There's no customers left. The only people who are left are our staff cleaning the place, and that's certainly what we would mean here by 2 a.m. And with the exception of the Thursday night, which Donna corrected me on, these are the existing hours. I understand there were problems with the other operator, but this would not be, again, with the exception of the Thursday, would not be an increase in the hours. So with that, thank you.
Okay, and Max, just so we're clear, you're saying 12 closing Sunday through Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you want 2 a.m. or something different?
We're asking you for 2 a.m.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna take a quick break, literally 1 minute, and I'll be right back and we'll call the last application.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great
You
one.
too.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right, we're ready. I think I'm ready. Sorry, everybody there. We get started again. We're going to call the last application we have tonight is 40 10th Avenue, the Hyundai application. So if you want to raise your hand, if you're an applicant or counsel or representative, we'll move you forward. Okay, I see 3 people, Patrick, Johanna, and Dane. Hopefully I got that right, Dane.
Yeah, Bob,
Carter, you around? There you go. You want to move them forward?
Yep, takes a second. So
Yeah, thanks.
there's a 10 or 20-second delay.
It looks like we got one more person. Nate Rayner. Okay, I think we got everybody on. All right, so Mr. Bernstein, you representing the application?
yes, can you hear me?
Okay, why don't you go ahead? This application is something that we heard in March, but was laid over. And then the application has really changed fairly dramatically. And also many of the folks that are hearing this application tonight on our community board did not hear it in March. So let's, if we could, start from the beginning. And I apologize to those of you on the community board that's heard this once before. Go ahead, Donald.
Okay, Bob, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, you heard this back in March. We were retained after that meeting, and there have been certain changes to the application, and I've also had a number of conversations with Don and Zach. We've resolved a number of issues, and there are a couple, 2 or 3 that remain open between us. So Hyundai is opening up a 3-story building to promote the Genesis brand primarily. They're partnering with Restaurant Associates because this facility, this venue will have a showroom. It will feature the brand, will have programming, and a food and beverage component. Restaurant Associates has decades of experience in hospitality, and they are on many licenses, and they will be handling the food and beverage part of this. There are 3 floors. This is brand new construction on 10th Avenue between West 13th and West 14th Street, close to the highway and the High Line. One advantage to the space is there are really no residential buildings or tenants right there. You've got the High Line, you've got commercial buildings, and you have the standard hotel. You've got the floor plans. I can take them, I just described them very briefly. The main level you will enter, and that is the showroom where the cars will be featured and viewed. The lower level or cellar is really primarily event space. It's really not going to be used when the space is open to the public. It's designed primarily for events. Most of the events are intended to feature the brand, the company, and promote what Hyundai is doing. The second floor is the restaurant space. There's a full service restaurant. There's a kitchen. It will feature Korean food. And there is also an outdoor terrace on the second floor that abuts the High Line, or is underneath the High Line. I haven't been there, so I don't know exactly how it's set up, but the High Line is right there. Let me go through with you the hours and how the spaces are going to be operated. So the hours are a bit different than last time for a couple of reasons, but what we are seeking now is, for the facility and venue in general, is 10 a.m. to midnight Sunday through Wednesday, and 1 a.m. Thursday and Saturday. And of course, those are all out hours. The outdoor terrace on the second floor would...
I'm sorry, Donald. I'm not sure I heard you exactly. Did you say 1 a.m.? You said 1 a.m. Thursday and Friday. But I didn't.
I have to.
Shirley, if you could mute.
Okay.
Yeah, Thursday, 1 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, now I got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, midnight the rest of the week. Outdoor space will close 10 during the week and 11 p.m. on weekends. The lower level, the cellar event space, will be for private events. I think we've given you some plans with some of the flexible seating. The seating will depend on what kind of event it is. I think the maximum occupancy, the maximum seating for the cellar, I'm now looking for it, I think it was about 180 something. It's on the questionnaire. And because it's subgrade and there will be soundproofing down there, it will be open for background music, live music, and DJ and private events without restriction. The restaurant and the second floor restaurant and the ground floor would have primarily background music. There will be no DJ when those spaces are open to the public. There will be a DJ and live music on the first or second floor for private events only. And one of the issues that we have discussed with Zach and Donna is to limit the number of private events on floors 1 and 2 at which there is a live music or DJ. So on that point, they are not asking us to limit the number of private events on 1 and 2 in general, just limit the number of private events on 1 and 2 when there is a DJ and live music. They proposed 18 times a year. We would like it 24 times a year. So that's an open issue that we have been discussing. There is no music in the outdoor space at any time, ever. And no speakers will be placed outside. Another issue that came up was having live music on floors 1 and 2 outside of private events. That is when we are open to the public. What we have proposed is that we be permitted to have acoustic live music only, not amplified, and we would limit the number of times we would do that. We had proposed 8 times a month. So 8 times a month, there could be acoustic live music on the first and second floor. Now, I think one of Zach and Donna's concerns is having live music may allow it to morph into something. What was explained to me, and Dane and my clients can amplify it, is that the showroom floor, Genesis is the top of their line. This is a very high-end brand. And they want this to be classy. They want this to be sophisticated. They want this to be artful. And the idea of having in the showroom someone who can play piano or someone can play bass, I'm not talking about the electric bass, I'm talking about the one that stands up, or something of that nature, can make it create a mood of elegance and sophistication. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for a band. We're not looking for percussion. We're looking for just that kind of mood. And the fact is that if you can have someone playing a piano in the showroom, it's not going to be any louder than if we had background recorded music, and it would not be amplified. And we'd be willing to limit the number of times a month we do that. We suggested 8 times a month, which gives us 2 times a week, more or less. And we would also end that, an hour earlier than closing. So let's say that the music would end by 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So there would be no live music later. And again, there are no open windows, so there's no issue with that bleeding out. So that's an open issue. Another question that arose, because the primary food and beverage service when we're open to the public is the second floor restaurant. And there's a small bar there. There's one bar with 7 seats, so it's not a big bar. The question arose, can people consume alcohol on the first floor when it's open to the public in the showroom? And when we spoke with Zach and Donna, their original view, and Zach can speak for himself and so can Donna very well, but the message that we got is they preferred that we don't have wait staff going around to people on the first floor showroom offering to give them drinks. That they would prefer that we have someone, if they want to drink on the first floor, if they want a glass of wine while they're looking at cars, they have to go up to 2, go to the bar, order it, come back down to 1. And we agreed to that. It wasn't our original plan. We wanted originally the option, even though it really is not in the program, we wanted the option to have wait staff go to, or someone in the showroom say, gee, can I have a glass of wine, and have someone bring it. But we acceded to their request. I think what I was told today is that, and they can speak for themselves, that they prefer not to have any consumption on that floor. But it's something that we want to keep in the program. I don't think that we expect there is going to be a horde of people walking around looking at cars saying, I need to get a drink, and run up to 2 and get a drink and come down. I think it'll be a relatively small number of people that want to do it. But there, again, there's an elegance to it. You're in the showroom. Someone may be playing a piano. You go upstairs, you get a glass of champagne, you walk around. We don't think that that is going to create a problem. It is not going to morph us into something that we are not. So we still want to have that. I think those were, so the open issues are having live music when we're open to the public, again, acoustic, and having people be able to consume on the ground floor. And then the number of times we can have a private event with DJ and live music. There was also a question about limiting the number of full buyouts of all 3 floors. And I think we agreed to 15 a year on that. So there would be only 15 times a year when someone could actually buy out all 3 floors. It's really not in their programming. to do these sort of buyouts by third parties. Most of the private events are going to be run by the company to promote the brand. It's not turning into a catering facility.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Donald. So in terms of the alcohol consumption on the first floor, I think the concern is that, well, if there's an event taking place, that there can be alcohol service on the first floor. But if there's no event taking place, then I think that may be the objection. I see Zach shaking his head up and down a little bit. So I think that's the issue there. I have a few questions about the outdoor area, and then I'll let other people talk. In terms of the outdoor area, you gave hours, but I didn't actually hear them. What are the hours on the outside?
10 and 11.
10, 11. Okay. And it just in terms of stipulations or agreement, that outdoor space would be for dining purposes only?
Seated service, yes.
Okay. And no heaters out there. It would be seasonal only?
I don't know. I'd have to ask my client that. They may want heaters. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, heaters maybe get you another month. It's not a full year, not year round.
No, I understand that. You know, that's why I bring it up. And you've already agreed to no music out there.
Right.
Okay. And how many seats again? And how many seats?
Outdoors on the terrace, there are 12 tables. There are 45 seats.
And can there be any events taking place out on the terrace as well? Or is it just going to be seated service, dining only?
Someone's going to have to answer that.
Okay.
You're asking if you can have a private event outside on the terrace.
That's right.
Or
can the private events that take place extend out to the terrace? And if so, you know, how many people are going to be out there?
Mm-hmm.
I'll take that one. I think we would like to have the opportunity to have a private event out on that terrace space, whether it's, you know, a cocktail reception before a seated dinner, something like that. But we would always adhere to the occupancy. I believe it's 59 on the terrace. We would never exceed that occupancy regardless of what we were doing, but we would like to have the opportunity to include that in some of our private events that we'll be hosting.
So, okay. I mean, that's a little different. It's not seated service only. And when we're talking about private events, you kind of mentioned a private event taking place on the terrace alone. I guess I was talking about the private events that are going to take place in the entire premises that are going to be limited to, I believe, 18 or 24 per year. I mean, would we count the outdoor terrace event as one of those events?
I think that that number, Bob, when we were discussing with Zach, was the number of private events at which there could be live music or a DJ.
Okay.
Because there may be private events during the day that could end early afternoon that didn't seem to be of any concern.
Okay. Because I bring up the cocktail party is very different than seated service. Cocktail party is people standing, there's more people there. And I understand the occupancy is, I'm sorry, what's the occupancy on the terrace again?
I think the legal occupancy is about 58.
Okay.
The number of seats we're going to have is 45.
Okay.
And then you'll have some staff members.
All right. So I'm going to let, if it's all right, I'm going to let Zach, I think Zach wants to speak on this. And I think it probably makes sense that we could kind of narrow the issues and maybe expedite the entire application.
Mm-hmm.
So Zach, why don't you unmute yourself and if you want to say something, go ahead. And if you could be as specific as possible as to what are the remaining issues
Understood.
and whether or not we can resolve those.
Sure. Yes, I suspect we can resolve them. We've met with the applicant multiple times. It's a somewhat complicated application. You know, basically what we've agreed to at this point is unlimited events for up to 232 people in the basement space with DJs and live music. We're agreeing to alcohol service on the exterior terrace, which is something which traditionally we have fought tooth and nail practically every time it's come up. The hours here are, that they're suggesting that are fine. We have no problem with that. I think our concern comes down to the fact that this is a huge 46,700 square foot space. The primary purpose, it's supposed to be an automobile showroom, and we want to make sure that it doesn't morph into something that really, where the primary purpose becomes to be an entertainment venue. And that's why we have specific problems with like two specific things. The first is the alcohol consumption throughout the entire space. And the second is the acoustic live music throughout the entire space. I think that these things really potentially, if they're allowed as the operations continue, do open up the concern that what's primarily going on here isn't displaying automobiles, it's entertainment, and it's not the stated purpose for the operation. So specifically, what we are asking for is no DJs or live music on the first or second floor except for private events. And then we were asking for a maximum of 18 private events with DJs or live music on the first or second floor. There'd be no limit on private events without music. There are no limits on private events in the basement. And then the other thing we're asking for would be no alcohol consumption on the first floor except in the case of private events. There's one other thing I just wanted to mention, and there may be some confusion on this point. When we were talking about having events with live music on the first and second floors, we were talking about events with live acoustic music, just as the applicant was discussing that they wanted for their, during public hours. And I'm realizing, just listening to Donald, that may not have been clear, and so we just want to make sure that that's on the table. In the basement, yes, we understood it's live music of any kind, no restrictions. But on this first and second floor, we're asking for no live music, period, when it's publicly open, and live acoustic music only, or DJs when they're private events. And I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay, and so is that objections, even if on the second floor they want to have a piano or something like that, as explained, as Donald explained?
Well, I think that reference to the piano had been on the first floor where the primary car showroom is. Again, in general, we've opposed having live music at restaurant venues in this area. We acknowledge this location is way over on the edge of it. It's over on 10th Avenue. Certainly with that basement, we're not concerned about noise getting out and bothering neighbors. First and second floor, it's more the precedent that it could set. It's some concern that if you have open doors facing onto the exterior terrace, that's quite close to the High Line, noise could be heard from the High Line. But it's more the precedent that if this is a car showroom, what's the necessity for having live music here? It just doesn't quite add up.
Okay. So I see a few issues that are remaining. One would be no alcohol service on the first floor unless there's an event, right?
Right.
That's number one. And number two is, and the private events, the number of private events, it's either 18 or 24.
I think that can be worked out. I mean, if going to 24 is what makes this work, I think we can certainly agree to that.
Okay. And the third objection is the live music.
Yeah. Live music outside of private events, correct. And also just the clarification that it would be live acoustic music during the private events.
Yeah, okay, but they've agreed to the live acoustical part of it as described, no horns, and it is truly going to be acoustical in terms of it being like you would expect in a restaurant or in any event. Okay, so but those seem to be the three things. Am I correct, Zach?
Yes,
the number of private events, the alcohol service on the first floor, and the live music. Am I catching? Is that the three things that are really standing out?
Live music on the live acoustic music on the first and second floor is outside of private events, correct?
Okay, all right. And is there anybody on the committee that would like to ask questions? Okay, go ahead, Donna. You got to unmute yourself.
I know. Okay.
Go ahead.
So I just want to, and Zach may want to chime in on this. The 15 private events we were talking about to take over the entire space, it's any type of event that takes over the entire space, not just a third party or something. It's any event that takes over the private space. So I believe I'm accurate in that, Zach. And okay, so I wanted to clarify that. I wanted to state that for me, the nice quiet piano in a car showroom or an upright bass, cello, something like that is one thing. That combined with the ability to bring down liquor it's a double thing. So I wanted to say that. When you are asking, this just occurred to me when you're talking, Donald, when you were saying 8 times a month for that music, were you considering the first and second floor together, or 8 times a month on the first floor and 8 times a month on the second floor? That was a question.
I haven't asked that question.
Okay, and how many seats are on the first floor is another question. And lastly, to just clarify the terrace seating of the 47 or whatever it is, 45 seats, the terrace, my understanding from our last conversation was that the terrace is open to the public. There will be a hostess or somebody at the door that, by there, but that it is open to the public. People could go, there are benches in addition to the tables. People could just go and sit out there. People could go and get a drink at the bar possibly and come out there. People could sit down at a table and just order a drink, and people could sit down at the tables and order dinner. But in order to go out there, you didn't have to be ordering dinner, or do you have to be ordering dinner? Just for clarification of that.
So yes, a couple of questions. I think to go on the terrace, there will be a host or hostess, and there are seats throughout. So the expectation if someone comes, they'll be consuming something. Will they necessarily have a full meal? Not necessarily. I mean, they could go out early in the morning and get something light and get coffee. They could go out in the afternoon and get a glass of wine or a beer and a snack. So I don't think it's any different than other cafes where there are various assortments on the menu and they can order something light and sit there. But the intention is that there are seats throughout and people will come and they will sit and be served. On the first floor, the concern about combining, a piano and alcohol, I mean, I don't see that as an issue practically for this, because we're limiting the number of times we can have that piano. We're limiting its hours, and we are not using wait staff. So someone would really want to have a drink to go from 1, go up to 2, order a drink, and then come back down. I don't think you're going to get hordes of people that are doing that. It's not like, the space is not that attractive that they're going to want to sit there for 2 hours drinking. I don't think, I got to look at the floor plans again. Dane, are there seats on the first floor?
No, there are no seats. There's just a showroom
Right.
on the first floor. And so you're saying, so Donald, just so I'm clear, you're saying there's not going to be any wait service, no alcohol service on the first floor. The only way someone could get to the first floor with a wine would have to be by ordering on the second floor and walking all the way down.
Yeah, other than private events, but if it's not a private event, it's open to the public. That's something that Zach and Donna asked us to agree to, and we did. We originally did want the option of serving someone if they asked on the ground floor, but at their request, we gave that up.
Okay.
So I just don't think there are going to be a tremendous number of people that are doing that. And I don't think the music is going to be attracting large crowds of people that want to do that either.
Okay, and then Donna, Zach, and Donald, do you guys have like some sort of document somewhere that outlines all the stipulations that have been agreed to?
No, this has been ongoing through this afternoon, so we could put that together.
Yeah, I just don't want that to be something that I'm dealing with the next 2 days. It would be nice if we had definition with regards to stipulations. Is there anybody else from the committee that has any questions about this?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about private events. What's a private event? This is, this is a car showroom with a lot of other elements, but private events, you know, that's somebody else coming in and renting the space to use it. And I'm just not quite sure what you guys define private event.
I think not so much third parties renting, but Dane, why don't you talk about that programming?
Yeah, so a private event to us is more of an event that has tickets potentially sold or available ahead of time because we have a limited capacity. So you would have to either RSVP or potentially purchase a ticket depending on the event ahead of time. We currently have a partnership with the New York Times, just to give you an example, where we're going to be hosting 16 small events for between 20 and 30 people, and then 9 medium events, which are about 40 people. So that just gives you an idea of size. And when it comes to content, obviously, it is a vehicle showroom, it is a restaurant, but we do have the event space. And one of the things we want to do with this space is to introduce people to our brand, because we are a very young brand. We've only been around for a few years. So the type of programming that we're planning to bring in is potentially vehicle designers to talk about the latest concepts, or a furniture designer to talk about interior design, and we can loop that back into how we design the interiors of our vehicles. So we want to partner with a lot of artists, a lot of local community members, thought leaders to come in and speak about what they know about. And each one of those events will have some sort of tie-in to our brand so that we can help educate people about who we are.
So on that vein, I got a little confused with the private events when I heard that other people would be potentially using it for their events versus what you just described.
Right.
You're always a partner in every event, and that's how it's furthering the brand. And so I'm just confused when somebody says full buyout, that has nothing to do with what you're describing.
Right. And I think there is some confusion there. I mean, we do plan on being a partner in everything that happens within the house. I mean, we may potentially partner with a fashion brand who comes in and has an anniversary event or something like that, but there always will be some sort of Genesis tie-in and Genesis partnership. It's really not in our plan to have the space available to lease to third parties.
So that's not, I mean, I think that that's a distinction that can change a lot of people's perception on this with the events. And I just want to make that clear, because I think that that's something that we need to clarify, Donald, in some way, that, you know, that the applicant's a partner in every event, that there isn't, you know, somebody else may contribute for payments, but not another party exclusively, right?
Right.
Well, but we want to be careful, Dane, because this is something we talk about. If a company wants to book a Christmas party in all or part of your space, then that's a third party booked event.
But that's what you guys haven't described as an event that you would have. I mean, the point here is to further Hyundai, right? And its brands, and at this point, it's the Genesis. And so I'm not sure how having another company's Christmas party is part of that. And I think that that's the concern.
No, I agree with you, but that's why I want my clients to be clear, because where I see you're going is that we would have something that says all private events have to be not run by, but they're internal events, as opposed to a third party booked event.
It's a partnership of some sort, whatever that may be.
Well, right, but that if, depending on how you define that, then that means my company can't come in and decide to have our Christmas party then, because that would not be in partnership. So Dane, I just want you to, make sure that if, you need to keep open the option of doing that, we have to discuss that. Unless you tell me that you're not going to.
I would say at this point, I think, before we have a chance to discuss in front of the board, I would say, we would hate to completely close the door on that right now, but it's not in our regular programming plan to rent the space out. However, to Donald's point, I think that's something that we'll probably have to discuss so we don't completely shut the door on future plans.
Because I think that those plans are where the concern is, and it's
Okay.
without those options. I think that there's a lot more comfort because this is such a large space, as opposed to, if that is part of the plan. I think that creates a lot more open questions because that is the concern everybody has.
Okay. So I guess my next question would be for the stipulation on the number of total buyouts that we had talked with Donna and Zach about. If we put a stipulation on that, for instance, if we refer that to buyouts by a third party, is that something that would make you feel more comfortable? And then, putting a stipulation on the number of times that happens? Yeah, Zach, I see your hand.
I see Zach. I'm just saying that was confused because a buyout event has just been described two different ways, and just getting clarity on whatever it is, because we don't want to have a concern going down the road that everybody's trying to clarify what this all meant, but it's not hard to clarify it. And so that's where Zach, you get in your conversations, you want to.
What we were referring to wasn't a third-party buyout. It was an event, regardless of who sponsored the event, that took over the entire 3 floors. That was our concern. It was the size of the event, not the sponsorship of the event.
And I think that whether it's a third party or an internal event, we'd agree to that number of no more than 15 times a year for the entire 3 floors.
Because I think that, if, I can just think of a couple of different style of events that would sort of raise the hackles of the local neighborhood if they were to happen. For example, let's say you had somebody very senior, said, oh, it's great space. Hey, why don't you guys come here and do a wedding? And then, you have some big event with some high profile person who comes and performs or is there. That's the kind of thing that I know is not what you guys want to do, but it's also not what people want to see. But that's sort of what you're leaving the door open for. And that's why I want to be very careful that these extraneous events that could happen sort of define you to the neighbors, because that's the way people's memories work. So that's where I'm just sort of trying to get a little bit more clarity on that. And, it's not about closing the door so much on things. It's just, it's your space. You should have your name on all of the events there because it's a automobile showroom, not an event space, so I don't know if anybody else shares my concern. I see Bob, Shirley, I think has a question.
Yeah, no, I see. Yes, of course. We don't want to have a wedding on the 3rd floor and on the 2nd floor. That's not what we want. We want Genesis to have the events sponsored by Genesis because Genesis wants to make their brand something special. That's what I think the community would be, expect at least. So a stipulation to that effect, I think, does make some sense if we can word it properly, so that our method of operation, as we say, fits the Genesis model. That's all. So Donald, that's something I think we can work out. I think there has to be some language to that effect, that in good faith, the events are going to be to promote the Genesis brand. I think that is really, am I not correct on that one?
I think that what I'm hearing is that's the primary function and primary programming, but we also don't want to lock ourselves in where if someone says they want to have a birthday party for 40 people, that we have to say no.
Yeah, I get your point also. So I think that can be worked out. It just in terms of a stipulation, not necessarily restrictive stipulation, but maybe a good faith stipulation that's not the plan,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it may happen.
Well, I think we can work that out.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Smith has her hand raised. Go ahead, Dr. Smith. Still can't hear you, Dr. Smith. I think you got to unmute yourself.
I already pressed on it and for some reason.
There you go.
We got you now.
Yeah, you guys are controlling it. I do. I'm following pretty much the concern that Carter has raised. And also, I guess I'm a little confused. You say you're going to have specific events with music and you're going to have some events without. What are the hours? Are there specific hours that you're going to have the ones with music as opposed to the ones without?
No, I just, some events may not be conducive to having music. If they're lectures or something like that, there would not be music. What we did propose is that on the first and second floor, when there are private events with live music, that they would not go to the final closing hour of midnight 1 a.m. We would end them earlier. We would end the live music earlier.
So that would be 11 and 12?
Yeah, we would do that at 11 and 12.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Dr. Smith?
It does.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
All right, so I think that's it. I don't see any other hands raised. Is anybody else that doesn't have their hand raised would like to speak? Maybe somebody from the audience who wasn't here at the beginning. That, you know, if you're an attendee and you want to speak on a particular item, you got to raise your hand and we'll bring you forth. Just making sure. Okay. Robin, did you're good? Okay, I thought maybe you raised your hand. All right. That's it. I appreciate you guys coming down. We'll try to figure out the stipulations. It's complex here, but we'll work that out. And thank you very much for coming down.
Yeah, and Bob, if you do, you know, if this goes through, I can certainly get something to Zach tomorrow for him to take a look at.
Yeah, that would be great because I think it's going to be hard to put it all together. But
yeah,
you know,
so let us know what you guys decide, and we'll try to, you know, we can take a first shot at it.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the.
Or you can. I certainly will invite you to do it if you'd like.
No,
not Carter. Not Carter.
Okay. But I appreciate all your work, Zach.
If Carter does it, it's going to take half a day to read.
Anyway, I appreciate all the hard work that went into expediting our process tonight on this application because it is complex. Okay.
Yeah, we tried. We tried.
And thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Hyundai,
everyone.
or Genesis. Sorry, Genesis, not Hyundai. Genesis.
Genesis.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, guys, just 1 minute before we go into discussion. But I saw something from Max.
Max is saying that he needs to make a correction.
Let me bring Max back up here. Max, if you're ready, we're going to bring you back and you can, before we close our session. Are you there, Max?
Hello again.
Go ahead, Max.
By the way, I love this format. I hope you continue this after the virus is over. It's great watching your meetings from the comfort of my home. On Spring Cafe, my client emailed me afterwards and said I screwed up on the operable windows. I thought there were no operable windows for Spring Cafe. That was the beer and wine application that went first, but apparently there will be operable windows. That's their plan, given that they're closing. You had to push them for 10 p.m. But given that they're closing early, we'd be happy to stipulate closing those windows by 9 p.m., which I think is what we normally ask for.
Okay, thank you, Max. I appreciate you letting us know that.
Okay, thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, did you guys need to take a quick 1 minute break or are we ready to go? I think that means we're ready to go. I see a couple thumbs up. Okay, so I think maybe we start with Spring Cafe. It's fairly, just give me 1 second. I gotta turn my light on here.
Yeah.
Do we have a count of how many of us there are?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's start that first. I got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Why don't we just have everybody call out their names and just say they're here, make sure the audio is all working before we jump into.
Here, working.
Robin, you're working. Donna?
Working.
Bob, Mar?
Are working.
Susan,
I'm here. Everything's good.
Susan, other Susan, Kent, yep, both there. All right. Dr. Smith, you were with us before, so we heard you. So are you still there? Katie?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
Did
I'm
you hear,
11. I'm counting 11 and Katie.
All right.
Carter, did you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh,
Did you get me?
okay.
Yeah, Kristen, hello.
Okay. Hi.
Hi,
Yeah, I'm counting 11 is what I'm counting on the committee.
including yourself?
Oh, that's 12. Hold on. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7.
11. I have 11, I think, too.
Then Anthony, we didn't hear from you yet. Are you?
I'm here. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, the problem is I think I have 2 Kristens, and that's why maybe I counted Kristen twice. For some reason, I have 2 Kristen Shays.
It's 11.
Yeah, you do have two. You do have 2 Kristens because my phone ran out of battery power, but it won't let me log off, and so then I have to log on to my iPad. So I'm here twice.
Okay. All right, good. I'm so glad you're here twice. One.
Okay.
So let me count it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I count 10. You guys have something different than me?
Yeah, 11.
Who
11.
Okay.
Donna, Bob, Susan, Robin, Dr. Smith, Anthony.
11.
Katie, Mar, Tom, Kristen.
Okay.
You know,
so
I don't see Tom with us though. Are you here, Tom?
yeah,
Oh, he was.
I think we lost Tom.
I had him written down from the beginning. Okay.
Oh, okay, so it is 10.
So it was 11 and now it's 10.
Yeah, but for purposes of voting, there were 10. Okay, that's what the confusion was. All right. All right, great. Okay, so Spring Cafe, pretty straightforward. They're going to close at 10, and it's a beer, restaurant, wine. And the Max came back on, as we just heard, and said that they're going to have operable doors there, which they'll close. So deny and less, everybody.
And what about the sidewalk? Are they having a sidewalk cafe, Bob?
The plan is to have a sidewalk cafe, and they will close that at their closing hour, which is 9:30.
Okay.
I think it was 9 and 18, or 8 and 6, 9 and 18. I think is the number of, but they weren't certain as to the number of seats.
Right. Okay,
said
thank you for clarifying.
You said 24.
24, so 12 and 24, which
Okay.
was, but they weren't clear that they could do
Right.
that. All right. All right.
Okay.
So that's deny and less 10-0. Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Yes.
Okay,
Aye.
great. So, why don't we do the Genesis? At this point, I think we're pretty close on stipulations. I think, I personally don't have a problem. I don't think the acoustical music, as long as we define it properly in the stipulations, it's going to be a significant issue. That's just me. Being inside, I'm always concerned about the outside, and I was a little concerned about events on the outside. But I'll listen to other people, what they have to say. Anybody want to say anything?
I just, the definition of what events are, what private events was just, I thought, important to define, just because that's really the area where problems could begin down the road, as things may or may not change. And it's such a large space that just making sure that's an accessory to what the space is, which is an automobile showroom.
Well, what do you think about what I said, which is the branding, that the events need to be
A collaboration.
a collaboration with the Genesis branding.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
But they didn't agree to that.
He wasn't clear about that.
Hold on. Go ahead, Susan Wittenberg.
Well, when you asked that question, Carter or Bob, I can't remember, I couldn't tell what they were feeling. I mean, at first he seemed to want to say, oh yeah, sure, absolutely, it's all about the Genesis brand. But then he stepped back and he said, but maybe it isn't. Maybe we don't want to shut the door to that. So
So my response, Susan, was instead of it being a restriction, that we have a statement in good faith saying that that's what the events are going, that's what the purpose of the space is that the events would be for the Genesis branding, but that there could be some private parties that could take place at the location.
And Zach and Don, is that what you discussed with them during the afternoon? I mean, is it all clear?
No, not exactly. I mean, we cared about the number of events that they were having and limiting that. And with the music, we were not as clear probably as we should have been about it being co-branded, because we figured they kept talking about doing events like with the New York Times or something like that. So we weren't thinking a wedding party coming in and taking up 46,000 square feet of a space. For me, one of I'm not really doubting their intentions here, but it's a full liquor license on 46,000 square feet.
Big space.
It's a big space. I feel much better hearing that there are no seats on the first floor, and would like to stipulate something to that, because that really, we see what happens in Restoration Hardware, where people have to go and get a glass of wine and they're sitting all over the place with their computers as a lounge area. Mm-hmm. And I think that the concern that we have about this is it's an automobile showroom primarily, not an event space primarily. And so what do we do to keep them, in all their best intentions? They're right off the High Line, they're right off the new thing that's going to be from the pier. It's a beautiful building. So I understand the 40 people at a birthday party. What Zach and I said to them was 18 private events per year with DJs or live music. We had no restrictions on if somebody wanted to buy out their restaurant and not have DJs or live music. There was no restriction on that. So if you want to have your birthday party in their Korean restaurant and tea room and walk out on the terrace, if you're not putting music component into that, we didn't restrict that. Mm-hmm. So I think, what Carter raised is an interesting point, and I think Bob came up with a great answer to it has to be co-branded, but they did not agree to that. Right. And how we write out a stipulation, maybe there could be something about the restaurant part or something, but 46, good faith only gets you so far.
Right. Yeah, but the good faith is the method of operation. And the method of operation is the branding of the Genesis brand, or it's the promotion of the Genesis brand. And so that way, they can't throw a huge party, as Carter said, which has nothing to do with the Genesis brand in the location. And I think what they're talking about is a reasonableness test that, every once in a while there might be a birthday party or something else that may not be specific to the Genesis brand that maybe takes place on the second floor restaurant. So I think we could word things in such a way to make it clear in case it turns into an event space, which is not the Genesis, that's not a branding of the Genesis name. That's the concern.
Just to your point, that's a great point about the restaurant, but I don't think it's the restaurant that I'm talking about. If somebody says, hey, I want to buy out the restaurant for dinner or for something, that's the restaurant space. That's not the rest of the space.
And that's not what they were, from the back and forth we've done with things, Bob, I understand what you're saying, but they heard what you said and they did not commit to that. Yeah. If they had said, that's fine, any event that takes over the whole space needs to be co-branded, that would have been a good answer. That's not the answer we got.
No, they were intrigued and they wanted the option because who knows?
But I think that's what, if they're doing something outside of the restaurant over 3 floors, I think that's something we really need to be
concerned about.
Clear about, because that's the type of thing that people are going to be upset about. I mean, that's, we all know it only takes one of those events and, the trust is sort of gone.
And how many events are there now?
18, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. There are 18 with DJs and live music 15 that take up the whole space. So in other words, they could have 3 with DJs or the live acoustic music that do not take up the whole space.
It's going to be pretty hard to regulate events and things of that sort. I think it's almost more important to put in the stipulation agreement what they're planning to be, and not an event space, and say that, and not an event space, not a catering event space, which is the concern of the community. Right. And spell out what Carter said, and make it clear, and then say, and these stipulations are designed to prevent that from occurring, something to that effect.
Did we ask them if they could keep the DJs and live music to the cellar as one of the letters suggested?
They are allowed. We let them do that unlimited in the cellar.
Why didn't I ask that?
Well, Donald said at the very beginning that it's complicated application, and a lot of it's taken place before tonight's meeting. But there's right, Donna, there's unrestricted in the basement in terms of the events, in terms of what you can do in the events.
Yes, they said, they clearly defined the basement as an event space. That was defined that way from the beginning. It's in the basement. I think we felt that because of their location right by the West Side Highway, because it's in the basement, you know, the latest hour is 1 o'clock, that we thought that was a give. It's not something as we would normally say yes to, but because of their location and because it's not where the restaurant space is, we thought that that was a good give for them, and it's unlimited.
It is a good give, but having said that, you know,
where's the gap?
It's, you know, there's their inch, there's their mile, and they're inching up from there. And the real issue is first and second floor, and certainly the terrace. You know, we can't give them carte blanche.
I mean, I will say for the terrace that they did agree to, there's no music, no speakers at any time out on that terrace. And that I feel was good on their part to get, you know, to not realize that that's something. So I'll just say that.
You know, I think the way that Bob, you had phrased it in the very first part about that it needs to be a co-branded event, or you had phrased it in some particular way. Yeah. I think that's the norm right now of what people who cross promote each other, is that they do things in that way. And if they're doing any of these other events, it's a favor. This is not a money-making space. This is promoting their concept, their ideas, their lifestyle. And so, you know, doing favors, you know, that's where that other stipulation comes into play, of the really putting it in place, you know, that it's a co-branded event, sort of. I think that speaks quite a bit. But, you know, I could see them partnering with a fashion brand that's in the area, you know, and in doing something. Those are the types of things. But if you drift out of that, that seems to be sort of where the problems begin. I mean,
yeah. Okay, assuming that we're able to get these stipulations together.
I mean, I don't know why we couldn't say something that says that any of the events that take over the entire space need to be a co-branded event.
Yeah, or consistent with the Genesis branding.
It's a 46,000 square foot venue. There's no way it should not be
right.
A co-branded event.
I think the word is consistent with the.
No,
that's not a concern. If somebody does an event in the basement, it should be co-branded. Certainly on the first floor, that's where they've got their cars. It should be co-branded. So pretty much, if somebody wants to do that birthday dinner party in the restaurant, I don't think anybody here has an issue with that. It's what you start doing on the basement and the first floor that drifts off into.
All right, so I'm listening that I'm hearing that we want to take a stand on the branding aspect of events. Am I correct?
Carter, the one thing I would raise though, just with the basement is they had said, like, they said they have this New York Times thing for, you know, small things that they're working with them. I didn't ask the details of that to know if that's something that's co-branded.
It is. So they said that that was a
Okay.
partnership that they were
Okay.
doing with them. I mean, that's,
We're partnering with them. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
you know, precisely the type of things that, you know, that you would expect to occur. Not.
How deep can we get on the stipulations? Can we mandate, you know, signage or creative that speaks to a collaboration specifically?
I would say this, that would be more of a negotiation after the fact. We didn't bring that up tonight to deal with that directly. What we did bring up was we brought up issues and we heard back from them that they're willing to work with us. So right now I'm asking everybody if we want to take a stand on this as to the co-branding or the branding aspect of events. And so what we could say to Donald and his client is that we're in agreement on the stipulations, but the events have to be, you know, there has to be some language that indicates that the events have to be consistent with, or have to have a branding aspect of.
They need to have a nexus to the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, a nexus to the
a
brand.
nexus to the brand or the company.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I think that's right, because we're talking about events that take the whole space, right?
Well, no.
Many 46,000 square foot spaces.
But
Yeah, so I think so what we're talking about is events that take the space up, okay?
Right, but it should be, you know, the New York Times and Genesis, not, you know, Genesis presents the New York Times or New York Times at the Genesis showroom.
Right, but the exception would be if you wanted to have a birthday party on the second floor, that wouldn't count because that's not taking up the entire space, right?
Right, but what if you have a birthday party with, what's the capacity, 500 something?
I think just to just go back to what I was saying is that the restaurant is where that happens. That's a normal space where that happens. Right. But if you're doing an event in the
Yeah,
basement,
but what if Puff Daddy wants to have his birthday party there?
but that's what I'm saying is that's precisely my point, is that you restrict it to co-branded events, and I'm sure they could figure out how to co-brand an event with him if you want.
Yeah, they'll give him a friggin' car.
Yeah.
So I'm not clear, Carter. Are you saying that all of the events need to be co-branded outside of the restaurant, whether they take up the whole space or not? Is that your suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they told us, right? I mean,
I'm not sure, but yes.
Yeah, but I think we were headed in that direction, and they were unclear as to whether they wanted to go in that far. But I think if we push it,
Let's present it that way and see what comes back.
Because I do think as a committee, that's where we're kind of in agreement on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't see anyone raise their hand saying no. So I think it should be presented in that way, that there's one sticking point issue, and that's the branding of the events. And we're going to have to agree to some language regarding the branding events before you will acquiesce and agree to the application. And I don't have any problem with the alcohol service on the first floor, Donna. So I mean, I know there was an objection there, or the live acoustical music.
I'm just concerned about the precedent that sets for a space that is not an entertainment venue. You know, that's all. I'm raising the issue because Bloomingdale's wants it, and everybody wants people to be comfortable hanging out in their place so that they can have a drink. So I'm just putting that out there as something for you to think about when the next one comes and says, well, Genesis is serving alcohol in their lobby, or people can bring a drink to their lobby of their 46,000 square feet space. Will they be able to do that everywhere?
Yeah.
But they came to us and told us that about Lexus for this one. So it's pretty much.
Lexus, you couldn't do that. Lexus, you can't, Lexus.
We said that they could bring.
When Lexus had an event on the third floor that took up the whole space, it was an event space. When when somebody went to the restaurant on the second floor or their bar on the second floor, they were on their second floor. And that was it. They recently now came back and we got them to, if I remember correctly, only beer and wine at the coffee area, because it's a coffee area and everybody else has beer and wine. All those spaces are extremely clearly defined, and nobody gets their drink up on the second floor and carries it down to the first floor to hang out.
That was something that you guys are okay with, carrying it down to the first floor?
No, they can't do it.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right.
They can't do it. This opens up the door for a whole other thing. This is Restoration Hardware now with a full OP in 46,000 square feet.
Okay. All right. So if people want to send me some language on the branding, I think the sticking point for us is the branding of the events that take up the entire space without some sort of consistency with the Genesis, promoting the Genesis brand. And so if folks want to send me some language that they think is a good compromise on that front that would be acceptable to them, but also acceptable to us, I would appreciate that. Okay. But we're going to stick our necks out to a certain extent on that aspect, because I think that's how we're going to present it, as Susan Kent has indicated to us. Okay. Is everybody in agreement?
Okay.
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 What's that?
Everybody's in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
If you get it right, it'll be okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think we all do share the same concern on that, and I think Carter articulated it. Okay. So moving on to mollusca. You know,
did you see that Max wrote that he has to make a correction on Spring Cafe?
yes, he told us already.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. He came back and said that they're going to have operable doors, and they didn't.
Oh, that's what that was. Sorry. Yeah, I just was saying that.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody want to start with mollusca? I mean, my concern is that this place has not been successful in the past, and it kind of converts into something that's not a restaurant, and that's what happened with the DJs before. And I do think the hours is the one way to make sure that doesn't happen. And so, you know, that's my concern. I'll listen to other people.
Katie here. I mean, what Carter brought up about the whole problem with the C of O. What's the status of that? I mean, doesn't even seem as if it's a viable space.
Well, I would say this, Katie. I do think that the state liquor authority listens to us when we object to a application, and we call it up at the full board. But if we agree to deny unless with stipulations and application, they kind of ignore things like that. That's my take on it. And they just go forward. And so as Carter aptly states, that's what they did last time. So if we don't, you know, I don't know for sure, but I think that there's deny unless, and things just kind of go right through the administrative part of the SLA, and you know, our objections or our concerns as to TCOs and COs going to go by the wayside.
Should we put that in as one of the, you know, should we just at least mention it?
Well, yeah, I mean,
flag it?
We should mention it. I mean, there's an existing C of O for a retail space on the cellar and the ground floor, but there's no C of O for a kitchen. There's no C of O for an eating and drinking space. And what happened is that they did all this work under a separate job application for a new C of O, but they submitted the old C of O. The old C of O isn't applicable anymore once they start doing all the work to transform the space. So they've been operating their restaurant under the transformed space, but submitted another document to the liquor authority. So that's pretty much, you know, what happened. That's why they got the previous license.
Okay.
Even though they promised the last 3 people here that they would all have that new TC.
Anybody else have any comments on mollusca? There's also other members of our community board here that are not on our committee. If they want to speak, they're more than welcome to.
I feel like they don't have enough experience. I'm concerned about their experience as operators. You know, I checked them out, I did some research, and I really couldn't find any evidence of them having any sort of history operating venues, restaurants of any kind. So that was the concern. And of course, as I voiced earlier, the patio. That corner is so packed with tables. The open streets on the cobblestone have umbrellas and chairs and seating. And then Bagatelle is right next door, and they have that huge, you know, patio, and it's always really rowdy there. And I see myself walking up Greenwich, you know, on the weekends in the afternoon and just not being able to get down the street.
Anybody else? All right. So where do we stand on the hours, and are we willing to go along with this one? Or do we want to fight over the hours, and you know, what do we want to do?
I think the 2 a.m. with inexperienced operators, and that the only thing that they seem to be aware of this space is the Coco Jardin, which wasn't even supposed to be there, and they're going by what they did that was illegal. Their application says that there's only offices there, so clearly they don't even know that there's apartments right there on the corner of Hudson Street and Gansevoort. They, you know, I mean, I know things go in meatpacking, but restaurants aren't generally open till 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't operate till, you know, till 2 o'clock in the morning, generally speaking, and especially for operators that have no experience. I'd like to see them open for a year and come back. I just don't think that hour is going to make a difference in them being successful or not, is my feeling.
Yeah, I totally agree. And their definition of weekend, you know, they've got 3 weekend nights, not 2 weekend nights. I don't know how we feel about that.
Well, that's typical sort of meatpacking, but I would certainly push back with an operator with no experience. If you're considering giving them 2 o'clock, I would definitely not give it to them for Thursday for sure. I mean, I really hate to see them get it at any time, but I really wouldn't give it to them for Thursday.
Hi, this is Shirley. I am opposed to the 2 o'clock as well. I think 1 o'clock should be their closing on weekends.
Appreciate that, Shirley.
And I agree.
Yeah. And weekends are 2 nights, not 3. I in my mind, but I could be persuaded about that by John.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is it would certainly be good to have somebody operating in there legitimately. It's a really problematic space. I don't know why before it was you know, it's a tough spot for anybody. So here's my concern with the music and the doors. It's a tough spot to get anybody walking down the street to go into, primarily a lot because of what Mara is saying. You've got the whole plaza there, you've got Bagatelle, you've got Serafina, everybody's kind of focused that way. And this is right next to the garbage from the hotel where the garbage comes out. So people sort of just walk by, which in the defense of the previous owner, I think is part of the reason why they put all the flowers on the outside and played their music loud, because they kept trying to do things to get people to come in. It's not an easy location to get people to come in. And you're going to have, you know, the hotel is right there with that provocateur glass roof space too. So I just, I don't know why I'm saying that. I mean, I think, you know, it would be good to have someplace open there. And I don't, you know.
So just to clarify the hours is it midnight and 1 that people are talking about? Midnight during the week and 1?
So midnight and 1, and so 1 would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, and that's what I'll propose to Max. I'll say, and I will say it in such a way that I don't conflict with Dr. Smith. I'll say we don't make any promises, but you know, you have the opportunity of coming back a year or 2 from now, and we don't. So concerns.
We shouldn't put anything about that. If they want to come back, we entertain applications at any time they're ready to come back. You know, putting that in there just presupposes that this is somehow unique. And
but we respect experience.
Right. So what Donna's saying is we don't trust the experience, we don't trust the location, and it's going to morph into something. That's my concern. But if you let them know that after a year, if they can prove themselves, it makes it a little bit more palatable.
Fair enough. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. And
But you're not going to write that, Bob. You're just going to say that.
I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that in the email to Max. Okay.
Okay.
But
The only
that,
thing,
It's not going to go in
the only
resume.
thing with saying, with putting, I wouldn't put it in writing either, but even with saying it, sometimes people feel that you're giving them an offer. So if they do very well when they come back, they automatically get the okay.
yeah, well, they're going to have Donna living down the street. So, you know, if they
No,
don't, if they
Bob-
violate a single stipulation, we're going to hear it.
Just to be clear, I'm not down the street. My
Okay.
windows are directly across.
So we're definitely,
Directly across.
we're definitely going to hear it.
one of the other things that's sort of on the table here is, you know, we have a reconfiguration of the whole area, including the hotel, which has that space provocateur, which is not operated for what, a year and a half or
Longer, I think, Carter. I think it's been more like 3 years, honestly.
okay, 3 years, you know, that has a huge retractable roof that could be removed. You know, if this outdoor dining trend is going to, you know, continue and really is an issue. They've got a huge basement space. They have another restaurant in there that's not operating right now. They've come to us with, on the other side of the hotel, just what, a month or two ago for their cafe. They've got a rooftop there, and that's
Coming back, they're coming back on the cafe for a full OP.
and so this is all just on this immediate little teeny surface.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
You know
Let's
what,
try to
guys?
stick to this one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say this, guys. It's getting to be 9, and
Yeah.
I think it's time to end the meeting. And I appreciate everybody working so hard tonight. What I will do is I'll pose it to Max, and it's a deny unless they agree to those hours, and also no curtains. There's going to be a stipulation in there that
Right.
says no
Thank you.
curtains, because that's
Okay.
the curtains are a pain in the neck. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody in
Okay.
agreement?
But no, Bob,
Yes.
I just
Sounds
didn't hear
good.
that word.
Wait,
No curtains, like a drapery.
Yes, because what they did at the last time was they put curtains up, and so you don't know what they're doing in there, and it's going to make a point. It makes the point, okay?
Okay.
All
it's
right.
not those nice, elegant white ones, Katie, that you're probably
Blackout.
thinking and that I think.
Blackout curtains.
No
Okay.
curtains. Tell us what you're doing inside, please. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey,
Good night.
Thank you, Bob.
Have a good night.
Good night,
You
everyone.
too.
Did you get
Bye-bye.
my reso, Bob? Bob, did you get my reso for
I
Taco
did.
House?
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much, and everybody
Okay.
else. And Eugene, good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
All right, good
Yeah.
seeing you. Good night.
All right.
Good night. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
And Patricia.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.